Ravens, then the Lions, Commanders, the 49ers, and then the Bengals. So, comparing the Commanders and the 49ers, who do you think has a better chance to win?
I think on paper, the Commanders. Like right now, obviously one team went to the NFC title game. The other team didn't even make the playoffs. Obviously, they'll get people back. But as much as I like Purdy, Jaden Daniels is a more talented quarterback. Now, we'll see how his second year goes. We saw C.J. Stroud kind of take a little step back. But I do think with the momentum that they have in Washington, I think San Francisco is a playoff team or competing for the playoffs, but Washington is competing to win the NFC. I think it's close, but I would say he's got more of a chance in Washington this year.
Yeah, the C.J. Stroud comparison is a great one, but it's not just the C.J. Stroud comparison. It's the Texans comparison, too, because remember the Texans went all in, and then obviously we talked about Dallas not going all in, the Texans doing it. 1,000-yard rusher, 100-yard or 100-reception receiver, 15 sacks, 15-sack defense. You know, they had done something in free agency that nobody else had done, so now expectations skyrocket. And look, they still won the division. They won a playoff game. They had a level of success, but because expectations changed so dramatically, people collectively looked at it as like this was a disappointing year, a step back, and based on the way they spent and the way they attacked it, it's relatively fair to say that. Now, Washington's kind of following the same pattern. It's Tunsil, it's Debo, it's Kinlaw. They signed back Bobby Wagner, so they're spending money. We haven't gone through the draft process yet. Expectations for Jaden are through the roof. But the difference between Jaden and Brock is Brock had no expectations, played really well. Everybody sort of downgraded his achievements, but he played pretty consistently early on. We don't know whether or not Jaden's going to be able to do that, or whether, you know, having this success and these expectations are going to be a little more pressure than he's ready to deal with at this point.
Yeah, Washington is on the uptick. San Francisco's on the downtick. Like, that's, to me, this is not a, and you guys know I have maybe more Jaden skepticism than anyone at the table. It's not a lot, but it's probably more than anyone at the table. As brilliant as he was last year, I have minor concerns. But I do think I tried to get the Laramie Tunsil addition into the show 3 days in a row, because I think it's a huge addition. I know it's not sexy, but it's the Texans. To me, it was a huge loss for the Texans, who one of their biggest issues was their offensive line play, and he's their best offensive lineman. A lot of penalties, we can deal with that. And then a huge addition to Washington, who in the playoffs they had lost their best offensive lineman to injury, Cosme. He'll be back. Now you have you have Laramie Tunsil. Debo again is not. Brew is right that he no longer has played like an Avenger, but I do think Debo, when he's healthy, is still not only a plus, but with a creative play caller like Kingsbury, who you got to give him respect for what he did last year, be able to use him as a bit of a chess piece the way Shanahan did. I like that. Meanwhile, the Niners took their shot in back-to-back years, and now are in a bit of it's not a rebuild, but a retool. I don't think they'll be more talented. I do think they'll be healthier, but they've lost pieces.
But if they're healthier, they're extremely talented.
Well, they got a lot of guys back.
And I think
they lost. Hold on.
I think Saleh did bring back Saleh. I think that's a little bit like Vic Fangio. Maybe that can have the same effect defensively.
Listen, I like Saleh a lot, but on defense, they are not nearly as talented. Dre Greenlaw was awesome when they were good. He popped his Achilles, sadly, in the Super Bowl. They basically didn't have him last year. Hufanga was unbelievable his first couple years in the league. He got hurt, then got hurt again. So those guys, they lost 2 defensive linemen. We know what they lost as far as Debo Samuel. I don't know what Christian McCaffrey's health is going to be. I think that is for.
He's going to be good.
Offensively, I think they'll be fine.
Okay. I don't feel like getting too lost into the 49ers, because the thing that's making me go crazy is, how will Jaden Daniels deal with this pressure and expectations? Fine. What are we saying? The dude dealt with all of it this year. And they're like, well, he had no expectations. Yeah, there were expectations. Okay, he was set up to have to, be the savior of this franchise, to bring this franchise back to life. And then he started balling, and then they made moves to be like, hey, we can win games. And you don't think he had the pressure on the road against the Buccaneers, against the Detroit Lions, against the Philadelphia Eagles? Like, I don't understand. Of course he dealt. He wasn't thinking, hey, this is house money. I'm only a rookie. Doesn't matter if I lose this game. Yeah, sure. The dude's a winner. He was expecting that he was going to win the Super Bowl. And the Commanders believed it. They all did. They were ready to go. So to act like there wasn't pressure and that we haven't already seen him deal with it is crazy. And make no mistake about it, Washington is a massive market. Massive. Massive. It's not the Houston Texans. And again, to use the Houston Texans as an example really doesn't make sense. Because first off, again, CJ Stroud didn't have a sophomore slump. His O-line was absolutely awful. And I think there was fundamental issues with his offensive coordinator. And so they went out and got some weapons. They went out and said, hey, let's improve our run game. Let's improve our wide receivers. Then you had multiple wide receivers. All three, his top 3 wide receivers, all went down at various times. Some of them multiple at the same time, and then you only have one of them. Run game in and out. Bad O-line. An offensive coordinator who I do not think did a good enough job to kind of deal with weather that storm. And that's how you get the year that CJ Stroud had. Cliff Kingsbury, on the other hand, I don't think will have that problem. The Commanders are actually smart and said, let's take care of this O-line. And yeah, they got a weapon like a Debo, which I think is a good move. And now we're going to see what else they do in the draft. And now the next step, like I keep saying with the Commanders, is defense. Improve that defense. Defense, it's not just about everything that they're doing offensively. It's defense. So, I take such issue with some of the conversation that we're kind of floating around here. We don't have to kind of play this like, well, wait and see, because the wait and see, then we're doing that wait and see then for every team. Wait and see, let's see how good the Eagles are. Wait and see, let's see how good the Bills are, the Chiefs, etc. So don't isolate it to the Washington Commanders and Jaden Daniels and be like, oh, Houston Texans, that's a great example. No, it's not. They made different decisions so far to improve the quality of their team. And they're prioritizing different things. And I believe that they have more mature, more experienced, better coaching. There you go. That alone is great. So, yeah. And then if you want to compare that to the 49ers, listen, I think the 49ers will have I think it's a great likelihood that they have a bounce back year. But the other thing is, before I go off into the 49ers, is that like also then using the Houston Texans, like, oh, well, the expectations were so high and they still won their division and they won a playoff game. Their division was awful. Okay. I mean, they had the Jags and the Colts, Titans, like, what are we saying here? It's the easiest division in football at this point. And then you had, you beat Justin Herbert and Harbaugh with the Chargers, who were one of the worst teams in the NFL the year before. They're like just starting to build what they need to build. So winning that game is hardly that special. And they did not play well, quite frankly. That was an ugly game on both sides of the ball for both teams, quite frankly. And just the season as a whole. That's why you can't just judge it based off of like, oh, did you win a playoff game? Did you win the division? What was your record? Like, if you just watch the game for the Texans, you're like, yeah, this doesn't look right. This doesn't feel right. This is not a team that's playing high-quality football. When you watch the Washington Commanders play, you're like, again, I don't care what the record is. I don't care what happened. Like, because again, just watch even the playoff game. Like, they could have technically lost that playoff game if there was no fumble by Baker or even the missed field goal to win the game. Like, it just shows you like how fine of a line it is that like they could have lost that game, and then you never see them beat the Lions, and you never see them, go up against the Eagles. So that's why you have to really look at the quality of play itself, not just the outcome. So, the 49ers and even the Texans for that matter, like they need a bounce back. They need an actual bounce back. Whereas the Commanders are going to be building off of their own foundational momentum. And the source of that is also, it's not just Jaden Daniels. Like, it really is this trio. And this is what I had said all last offseason going this season. It's Dan Quinn, Jaden Daniels, Cliff Kingsbury. It's that tree. It's that trio. You have the offense, you have the defense, you got the quarterback. Boom. That's massive to be able to build off of. The 49ers, for instance, they weren't able to have that. That's why they went out and got Salah. You know, the Texans weren't able to have that. They dealt with a lot of injuries, as well as, you know, needing to move on from their offensive coordinator. When you have a defensive head coach, it's a major disadvantage for CJ Stroud now at that point. So yeah. It's funny to also hear Nick be like, I might be one of the bigger doubters or whatever it is about Jaden Daniels. I have some concerns. And it's just like, what concern could you possibly have about Jaden Daniels? Outside of like that you're afraid that he's going to get injured. Okay, that's fine. Trevor Lawrence is really big and strong and looks like he was made in a factory for football players. Dude has not been able to stay on the field. Joe Burrow, injured. Like, Jalen Hurts can, you know, squat 9,000 pounds. Missed multiple games for a concussion. Messed up his knee against the Rams. So, like, and I get it. You know, I've talked about Jaden wanting him to slide more and get out of bounds and all that type of stuff. Like, I get that. I want that to be his next evolution of his game. But, like, to be like, I have concern, like, to have, like, unique concerns, though. I mean, again, bring that same energy then about any of these other, like, you can pretty much say it about every quarterback except Josh Allen, because he's been, like, the most Iron Man quarterback in the NFL. So, I don't know. It's just, to say that you have doubts or concerns just at this point just seems dumb to me. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Washington Commanders? How close do you think they are to a Super Bowl? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.